Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian. Pete joining shortly to describe for you exactly why the Dow Jones Industrials are down about 1.5%, S&P closing in on a 1% drop, and NASDAQ also about 1% lower. Why? Well, we'll have the answers to that and maybe even a little prediction market and sports on today's Rebel's Edge. All right, Pete, what do you say? It ain't the last one of the week, but we're getting close.
We're getting closer, and I'll tell you what, I'm liking the backdrop you've got there. That's pretty friggin' phenomenal.
Yep. That backdrop, folks, is Circa, the largest sports book in the world. And Derek Stevens doesn't just want one largest sports book in the world. He wants two. So he has also the largest outdoor sports book in the world at Circa.
You gotta love it.
So the Rebel Investor Club's going to be going out there to check it out, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in October or November. We'll finalize that maybe even today.
Yeah,
But
that'll be
should
great.
be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, macro, Pete, I'm going to say, the president of the United States decides, you know what, we're really going to hurt them tonight because apparently Iran was able to launch a couple of ballistic missiles last night, Pete. They got intercepted and didn't strike anything. No troops were injured or anything. But he's pretty upset with Iran for more or less breaking sort of truce. And so he says, we're going to make them pay tonight. And pay they are, I'm sure. But in the meantime, WTI is going to mean we're going to pay more at the pump because it's up 6%.
Yeah, and that's something everybody will pick on Trump about. I mean, whoever the president is, let's just forget about that for a second. I mean, with these tensions the way they are and they escalated again, and now all of a sudden we're going after it. You know what? Sometimes you got to suck it up a little bit. And you know what? Crude oil, it's up about 7%, as a matter of fact, with WTI. So pretty extreme move. But we also know it can come down pretty daggone rapidly as well. So I think the idea that we went right at them is probably the right decision, quite frankly, given what's going on. By the way, the other thing that's also pulling us a little bit still is this whole AI, is it slowing and all the rest of it. We also have a Fed day, John, so there's some guys there that are trying to, figure that out for the markets, and there's other people who are just sitting on their hands. They're just saying, you know what, I don't want to touch it till we know what the heck Warsh says. So, all of that as a backdrop, we'll know a lot more by the end of the trading session or very close to it. About 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're gonna find out a little bit more about what's going on.
Well, how about what's going on with the VIX, Pete, and or Vixen? But today, it's probably more about the VIX than the Vixen.
Yep, I would say that that's probably true, John. We start off the measure early on, and we're sitting there in the 18s, and the next thing you know, it just absolutely skyrockets. We did get over 20 for a moment. We're pushing on 20. We're anywhere between 20 and call it 1975 or something like that. So, and all for the right reasons, right? I mean, we just put out some of the reasons of what's going on and what's hitting the markets a little bit. Well, those are the reasons why that volatility index is going up there. There's a lot of unanswered things right now, and I think it probably makes as clear a sense as it has in a long time. The fact of where it is today makes a heck of a lot of sense. We're darn near almost a 1% move, which would mean for the S&P, that would mean about a 16. But you know what? There's a lot more to it than just that. There is the emotional side as well, and that's what's getting popped up pretty strong today, John.
Well, let's do a little prediction market, Pete. Despite what Pete accurately described as far as the movement of the S&P 500, which is what the VIX is, that's the actual as well as the predicted or the extrinsic part of that estimate. Let's take a look, Pete, at prediction market, which has come down by some 32% year over year in terms of a recession. This is according to Kalshi, and as you guys see right there on the screen, Kalshi is saying recession this year, 9% chance. So that's not terribly good odds if you're somebody rooting for recession, is it, Pete?
No, it's not. And it's interesting to see now. Is there a lot of activity on this thing? I don't really know. I mean, it doesn't look like it's unbelievable, but what, almost 3 million, John, something like that going after this thing. So yeah, makes it pretty interesting. It's a fun thing to kick around a little bit about, but as I've said on a few occasions in the past, and I'm not trying to be too light on this whole thing, but shoot, we've had some recessions where people didn't even know we were in recession. So, it's a lot different than a depression. That's the main thing here.
Yeah, that's right. A recession's when your neighbor loses his job or her job, and a depression is when you lose your job.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. Let's do one more time Immersed, because in the Venture Corner today, we're going to tell you again about Immersed. I'm going to make sure that you guys understand that this AR, VR powered software is incredible. I mean, it's already got 1.5 million users and more of their software, Pete, and it powers competitors' gear as well. Now, the gear that they produce with these immersed glasses, I'll call them, Pete, rather than goggles, because they're really not like the Apple goggles. They're not like the Oculus either. They are much more like what I saw when I was using them at the New York Stock Exchange, Pete. They were much more like, think of Oakley blades or something like that. Smaller, lighter, and yet you're able to project onto those blades, if you will, onto this immersed headset, up to 10 screens. I mean, you could watch instead of just being out at Circa, what's behind me on the screen, instead of being there, you could be projecting a 20-foot Jumbotron through those glasses. So you're not just watching whatever your television is, you could be watching that Netflix episode or Landman or whatever on a screen as big as your view at that particular day. So it's pretty amazing technology that Immersed has put together. Now, it's great for traders, of course, because you go on the road and you don't have your 3-screen setup. You could do that with these glasses. They've raised $38 million from over 10,000 investors. And the company is positioned for an IPO, but that doesn't mean it's immediate or anything, folks. But obviously, the better they do with the deployment of these, the closer it gets. So right now, we anticipate that there will be a new visor expected in Q4 2026. Now, just like people expect Apple to come up with something new in September of this year, does it always happen on exactly that time frame? No, but it's fairly predictable that something could be coming our way from Immersed in the fourth quarter. And they are doing a funding round right now that actually ends on July 30th, which happens to be tomorrow. So we'd encourage you guys to check out Immersed. Jared has again put it up on the screen for you. It's fabulous technology. And I think you guys would be wise to at least understand what it's all about. And some of you will probably elect to do as we have done and acquire some shares. And we are paid consultants to the company, and we always want to disclose that to you. All right, Pete, let's dive into a few stocks like GEHC, which is GE Healthcare Technology. Basically, second quarter results spectacularly beat anticipated results. And they didn't exactly, they weren't shy about the guidance going forward either, Pete.
No, these guys were pretty excited about what they were able to do. Look at that reaction. The reaction makes all the sense in the world, John. They not only crushed the earnings, they also beat on the revenue, but they had strong growth. They had momentum. They had everything going in their direction. Record organic growth as well. They reaffirmed the EPS for the guide that they've got, very strong. They did have one thing that didn't seem to affect anybody, which was the change in CFO, which sometimes can be a big deal. In this particular case, it didn't seem to be, just walked away, and then now somebody already is in place, but stock up about, what, 12%, something close to that, John? Yeah. I would say GE Healthcare had about as good a quarter as they could. And that's another one, as we talk about these earnings, just how strong things really are and how the economy actually has been humming along a lot better than a lot of people have tried to tell us.
Well, let's jump over to Garmin, Pete, because back in the day, Garmin used to produce a little device that you'd plug into your cigarette lighter, for instance, and it was GPS. And then all of a sudden, car manufacturers started building that into their cars, and iPhones were out there with, Google Maps and Waze and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you would think that this company would get crushed, but they pivot and they get into healthcare and things like that, Pete. So what do I mean by that? Well, the health and fitness market is estimated at $45 to $48 billion. And these guys, anybody who's running around with an Apple Watch, Pete, yeah, that's cool. But what do you see most of the triathletes and so forth and marathoners running with? A Garmin watch. So they are spectacularly in the lead right now. You've got Fitbit, you've got Apple, you've got Garmin. And Garmin, I would say, Pete, is one of the highest thought of products in this space. And again, it's not just about maps anymore. Now it's about, your health and exactly how many miles did you log, how was your sleep, everything. These are pretty spectacular devices, and Garmin moving higher after reporting some strong earnings because of that.
Well, and as you said, spectacular. How about the earnings being spectacular? Yes, they were strong. They were 281. They were looking for 229. I'd say they crushed that, John. I'd say that's a pretty good size beat. They beat on the revenue as well. They've made some acquisitions. They're in the right place at the right time. People seem to be very, like you were saying, they've kind of transformed themselves just right before our very eyes and done a really, really unbelievable job. Oh, by the way, 52-week highs. That was it today off that huge jump to the upside, up about 17% as we speak right now. Hit 299, up about 46% year to date. So Garmin is not just somebody who's all of a sudden had a great earnings. They've had some great earnings in the past as well, and that's why this stock is zooming the way it is. That's why the stock is hitting 52-week highs. These numbers, and I think with the addition of some of the acquisitions that they have, and you were talking about this, John, the U.S. health and fitness clubs, they're estimated at $45 to $48 billion. I would say that Garmin is sitting in a really, really great spot right now. And I like this. I don't think this is the end for them. I think that this is still just the early stages for what they really could do into the future. So really an impressive quarter for Garmin.
Yeah. I mean, you've got things like Aura rings and other rings as well that give you a lot about your sleep and your heartbeat and so forth when you're under stress and all that sort of thing. But Garmin is really one that gives you an awful lot of data, especially once you team it up with, your computer at home, not just what's on the watch when you're running around. All right, Pete, Lennox International. Now, what are these guys? Climate solutions, they say. Okay, what kind of solution? Air conditioning. Well, we talked about it, and this part of it isn't funny, but in Europe, Pete, every summer more people die. Look it up, folks, and I'll give you your money back if I'm wrong. More people die in Europe every summer from heat than die in the United States from gunshots. Look it up. But these guys, Lennox, is one of the many places like Train air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. They're one of the folks that really help us survive because, again, people actually do die when it gets really, really hot. Well, Lennox makes products for heating your home, for cooling your home, and, as you might imagine, for data centers, Pete. So home comfort for sure, but also extend that over to what else needs to get cooled, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, John. Unfortunately, there you go. Unfortunately, they also they missed on the expectations for revenue. They were in line with earnings, so they were one of the very few that just did not have the right numbers for people to react the way they would probably have liked to have seen them react. It was all the way down to 432. It's 52-week lows, unfortunately, so that not so great. They talked about their guidance, which they lowered, so that wasn't so great. You talked about the home comfort. That was down about 7%, the revenue for that. They did have some on the other side of that, though. That climate solutions you were talking about, the rev was up about 24%. That was good. But the problem was they just didn't quite give what people really needed. And obviously, anytime when your guidance is not there, we talk about this all the time. If it's not there, that's always going to be a problem. That people don't care what really happened in the previous quarter. They want to know what's going to happen in the next quarters to come. And unfortunately for Lennox, they just aren't doing it right now. And I don't know what's going to help fix it, but certainly you looked at that chart and what this stock looks like right now is sitting there at those 52-week lows. Not good right now for Lennox, John.
And think of this, folks. For large appliances, which, when we're talking about an air conditioner for your home, could be anything from, and I'm not talking about window air conditioning, but if it's central and so forth, you're probably looking, Pete, at somewhere between $4,000 and $20,000.
Oh, yeah.
So these are big purchases. It's like a very fancy range or a fridge, and they're durable. They are not, things that you just say, oh yeah, I think I'll just upgrade right now, especially when interest rates are higher. Interest rates come down, these guys would benefit, and then they'd bounce nicely, I think, off that 52-week low that Pete talked about. Let's hit some data centers, Pete, with Vertiv, VRT, because they are under pressure despite a solid earnings print. They expected 143, they posted 152. That's a big plus. Revenue up 24% year over year. But how is the outlook, Pete, going forward? Was that what people were focused on with these data centers?
You know what? I would normally say, yeah. Although, John, what I was looking at, they did raise their full year outlook. So that wasn't really the culprit this time. In this particular situation, John, I think it had a lot more to do. If you take that chart and go back a little bit further, what I think is interesting is it might have made too big of a run into this whole thing to extend it any further. They would have had to give a little bit more. Yes, they beat on their earnings. Yes, they beat on the revenue. The revenue was actually up 24% year over year. They talked about some strong cash flows. They talked about the AI and the data centers and all the things that you were talking about, John. Demand is there. It remains really high. So I was just kind of digging around, just kind of trying to figure out, well, what's the deal? Well, the stock was up 56% year to date coming into today. And unfortunately for Vertiv, they just couldn't quite give them enough to get them to buy again and get even further. They dropped about 14, 15% today, something like that, John. And I think a lot of that has to do with this previous run up that we have seen. But very interesting to see what they were able to accomplish. They're still, I mean, when you look at those numbers and you look at the outlook, you could say, you know what, maybe this is an opportunity, and maybe it is. But I'd sure like to see some unusual options come in there to tell us, the big boys want in. And we haven't seen that yet, but it's early. It's just today.
All right. Well, let's take a look at a little sports video, Pete, because when we're able to, we love giving you guys some interesting sports videos. And this gentleman, who is an absolute beast, and Pete called it when he was in college, Will Anderson Jr. And what a great young man. And this is what he had to say, Pete, after he signed $150 million deal. Let's give it a look and a listen.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesus. Jesus, I owe all I am to you. Thank you for blessing me and keeping me and holding me together all these years. Without you, I am nothing. You have truly been gracious and loving to me. I love you, and I will always glorify your name. Now all the glory to God, who is able through his mighty power at work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. To my spiritual family, thank you for the prayers and keeping me grounded in the word, and never forgetting and never letting me forget how powerful God is, and that he always has my back and is always standing on the front line with me. Thank you. To every little kid, teenager, boy or girl, young adult, don't be scared to be different. Rise above the expectations of what society wants you to be. With God, everything is possible. You are not what this world wants you to be, but everything God has called you to be. Walk in your purpose and your light, however that may look, and let nothing stop you. You are called, you are chosen, you are ordained, you are godly and holy, and most of all, you are loved. Whatever God has planned for you shall come to pass. Held high always, be bold. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for your Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
I love it. You gotta love it.
Yep. Powerful speech, and 6'4", 245, Pete, out of the University of Alabama. And oh my gosh, was he a force there, and is he a force with the Houston Texans, Pete?
Yep.
And they like this kid so much that they decide, you know what? Here you go. Here's a 3-year, $150 million contract extension with the large portion of that guaranteed. Just amazing, Pete.
It is amazing. It's amazing that linebackers are getting paid what they're getting paid. I'm happy for every single one of them, especially Will Anderson, who I've watched when he was in college at Alabama and thought, wow, this kid, he just needs to get a little bit more weight on him. Well, he got the weight on him, and he's the best. He's arguably one of, if not the best linebacker right now in the NFL. And I think that money right there in front of you shows exactly what they think of him as well. So great young man, unbelievable football player. And I'll tell you what, Alabama has had a nice little pipeline out there to Houston too. So they figured out how good those linebackers are, maybe a tight end or two, a defensive lineman or so, but whatever. I mean, they just put out a lot of talent. Speaking of talent, John, let's go to a little college football. Ohio State. Now, Ohio State just inked a deal with JP Morgan, which is just amazing to me. And I thought it was fun because, heck, this goes right into football and finance, right? When we talk about that, they've got these jersey patches that they put on, right? There's going to be a big thing here for JP Morgan. 36, all of Ohio State's 36 sports teams will have that patch. Wherever they are, they're going to have the patch. And it's a $17 million a year deal that they put out there for the school of Ohio State. Just unbelievable to see what they're doing, John. And you know what? They already just finished out their ratings for the 2027 class recruits, and that can be flexed around a lot. But they're top 6, which is not surprising. It seems like they will get the top wide receivers, it seems, every single year at Ohio State. And they just send them into the pros, man. Those guys they're damn near ready to go before they get to Ohio State. I mean, that's how good some of these young men are. So it's an amazing deal, John. Are we going to see more of these kind of deals? I mean, is this just the start of this? And is it turning college football into NASCAR or college sports into NASCAR?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just like it is with the NBA, Pete. Yeah. Absolutely. And, they're going to help these kids out with the NIL as well, which probably means that, when a kid signs for, $3 million, $4 million, man or woman, that maybe JP Morgan will be out there saying, hey, you need a little help managing that money? We'll put you in some safe stuff so that when you're 50, you guys have, multiples of that instead of just blowing it all on cars and watches and things like that. So I think it's going to happen more and more, Pete. And I won't be surprised if, because I doubt if this is exclusive. If I'm JP Morgan, $17 million, shoot, that's 2 Super Bowl commercials, for gosh sakes. Yeah. With that patch on the uniform, as often as Ohio State is on TV and as often as they're in championship games, is that patch going to pay multiples of that 17 million? Absolutely. I think it is, Pete. So yeah, congratulations, Ohio State.
Yep, Ohio State, and a smart move, I think, by JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, and all the rest. So sticking with that, just because it's all going on at the same time, John, the Big Ten Media Day thing and the media deal is going on. It's interesting because I didn't think that this was the direction that the Big Ten wanted to go, but they do. And then you look at the SEC and some of the other major conferences, they don't really want to do it. And I'm talking about the rest of them all want a 16-team playoff. And for whatever reason, the Big Ten is really pushing hard for 24-team playoff, John. And they're kind of coming down to the wire whether or not that's going to be able to happen in 26 or 27 or whatever, because those things have to be set up. But it's really interesting, I think, to see, is this another money grab? I mean, is that the direction they're going? Is the revenue that they're going to get from this whole thing? And I can't quite figure it out. But, you know, it was just yesterday you and I were talking about the University of Michigan in Willingham, the new head football coach there, talking about a salary cap, to also talking about $50 million rosters in college football. And he did say rosters. So interesting to see what's going on. I mean, college football is not what it once was. And in some ways, in a lot of ways, that's great. It's great for the kids and getting all this money. But it is changing the game, Jon, especially with the portal and everything else. So I'm just curious, what do you think as far as those playoffs, though? Should they be extended to 24? And then we don't have to hear from Notre Dame ever again.
Yeah. You know, as I would be okay with 24, Pete, if they cut a game out of the regular season.
Yeah.
You can't just lump all these extra games, you know, on top of these athletes, because they're already pretty spent at the end of a grueling schedule.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they got to do the Big Ten championship game. And then the winner and perhaps even the loser of that game go on to this 24 team, playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, and granted, if you're the top team or teams, you might get a bye, but all the other guys, man, they're playing more games than the pros by the time you get through the whole thing, Pete.
Yeah.
And I do understand that they're getting paid like pros now, not quite as much money, but they're nonetheless getting paid. But I think it's too much, too much. But like you said, the greed is going to be there, and the Big Ten's right at the front and center of it, wanting 24 games when SEC and everybody else seems pretty comfortable with a much lower number.
Yeah, it's a matter of those number of games, and you're a younger person or whatever. In a lot of ways, it's going to affect you even more. And if you're actually in school and going to classes, everything else, I mean, it just stacks one more thing on top of you or whatever. So I don't know. I know people can make good arguments and bad arguments about all of this various stuff, but it just seems to me that they are really, really trying so hard on the money side of things that they're blinded by everything else. But I guess, 24 teams, it probably will happen, and it probably will happen in the not too distant future. It just might not happen right away, but it will happen at some point in time.
Well, let's hit one more, Pete,
Yeah.
just because I thought this one, if you don't already know it, folks, Pete and Jon love Caitlin Clark. I just think she's a great example for young kids, boys and girls. Obviously, particularly girls, because she's a breakthrough athlete in the WNBA. I saw a video of her, Pete, this week making 50 of 54 three-point shots. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I mean, that's Steph Curry kind of numbers right there. And there's not another woman in the WNBA that can do that. And there's a few that can't even make a layup. But how about the All-Star game? Take a look at this graphic, folks, because in the All-Star game, NBA All-Star, they drew 15,900 people. Live gate. That's not TV, of course. That's live gate. How many went to the WNBA All-Star game in Chicago, Pete? Almost 20,000. And there's Caitlin doing her Michael Jordan right there, Pete.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing that now are the ticket prices higher for the NBA? Yeah, but they're higher because people will pay it, apparently. That arena that they played in, Pete, the Intuit Dome, where the NBA played their All-Star game, it usually holds about 18,500. But the NBA claims that they took 3,000 seats away for various production, in quotes, facilities in the arena. Okay. Hard to believe that you took away 3,000 seats with that or whatever, but okay, I'll go there with you. But I think that when you've got an athlete like Caitlin Clark, if you look at last year's All-Star game, Pete, it wasn't drawing 19,000. For all the people that say I'm chasing Jordan and so forth, first of all, nobody's catching Jordan.
No.
In particular, some WNBA player who can't make a layup. But Caitlin Clark never says that.
Yeah.
She never says, I'm the face of the league. She never says, I'm chasing Jordan or anything else. She loves the game. She's paid well to play as well as she plays. And just like Steph Curry, she shoots a ton before every game and in practice every week. And that's how you get to be her level of good. And that's why people in Chicago filled the arena. It's also not too far from Indiana, Pete. So people could drive up for the day and go see Caitlin Clark play in the All-Star game. So just thought a tip of the hat to her for that, Pete.
Yeah, and the WNBA. I mean, it's impressive that they were able to get those kind of numbers versus the NBA. I mean, they can say what they want in the NBA, but that they didn't shift around those 3,000 seats.
No,
not a
well. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Pete and I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be bringing you probably another what is that? Those serials that are on TV, Pete, as the world turns and so forth. In our case is as the heartbeat market continues, up one day big, down the next day big, up one day big, down the next day big. So we're down big today. Likelihood that we're up big tomorrow, we'll see. Tune in at 1 p.m. tomorrow to find out.